الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We begin this beautiful evening in Calgary, Alberta, in the name of God, the most gracious, the especially and the entirely merciful, the all and the eternally loving, the one who is all informed of everything that ever was, is, and will be, and everything that wasn't, isn't, and never will be. And may peace, blessings, and benedictions be showered upon all of God's chosen prophets, messengers, and servants, from Adam and Eve and Noah to Solomon and David, and from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, to the mother of Moses, Mary, Jesus, and Muhammad, all of whom are mentioned in the glorious Quran. And may peace and blessings and prosperity, safety and security, wealth and health, physical and both metaphysical, be showered upon you and upon all of your beautiful families, upon Canada, and upon our beautiful planet that many billions of people all call home for the many years, decades, and generations to come. We have a lot of guests today, and had I known, it's part of my tradition that when a guest does come to my home, we truly entertain with hospitality and generosity. So next time, please do let me know if you're planning on coming. I am really, it breaks my heart that I came empty-handed. And I have nothing to offer you but maybe a very boring lecture over the next couple of minutes. But thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. You know, we live in an interesting world. But before I start, I guess it's important that I introduce myself. My name is Fayed Tilly. I was born in Toronto, Ontario. I still bleed blue, for those of us who still cheer for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I studied in upstate New York. I snowboard, I ski. All my kids play ice hockey. We come from a family we're flawlessly bilingual in English and in French, among other languages as well. And I'm at the University of Calgary. I'm a chaplain there. I work for the Faith and Spirituality Center there. And I also am part of the Calgary Interfaith Council. And kudos to Calgary, hashtag Calgary. Hashtag Calgary Strong. We were the recipients of the gold medal, which was given by the United Nations for our work and my personal work as well, as far as interfaith, understanding, pluralism, seeking to understand prior to being understood is concerned. And we received that gold medal actually from King Abdullah II, the King of Jordan, about 2 years ago. I'll begin by saying I think we live in an interesting world. Now, on the one hand, the world is getting smaller, yet on the other, it's becoming much more divided. Similarly, we can definitely see these great conversations surrounding religion in the public sphere, pluralism, migrating from exclusion to inclusion. Yet on the other, the ignorance. You know, they say that we live in a world of information, yet we're still thirsty for knowledge. We live in a world of information, yet we are still thirsty for knowledge. Because I can Google something, but man, oh man, if I Google my symptom when I have a cough at night, I will self-diagnose myself with 4th degree cancer. 4th stage cancer. That's what self-diagnosis does to one, right? We live in a world of information, yet we're thirsty for knowledge. And there's a titanic of a difference between knowledge and information. So ignorance is on the rise, misogyny is on the rise, racism, prejudice, bias, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, right? And I want to take my steps back as well. Does anybody know what treaty we're on? What treaty we're on? The land?
7.
Treaty 7, thank you. Very, very important. This is the land that we're on. So important to recognize, so important to acknowledge. We must recognize that we are on Treaty 7 land. You know, we are on the land of the Blackfoot territory, the people who make up the FNMI communities, right? And we speak about racism, and we, you know, in the United States of America, when we speak about racism, we think about African Americans. But McLean, which is a great, authoritative, credible Canadian publication, you know, a couple of years ago, they came out with a beautiful article with respect to the FNMI community, which stand for FNMI, anybody? First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, right? The issue or the challenges or the concerns surrounding our brothers and sisters who are from the First Nations and Inuit community are far more pressing. Many of our First Nation, Métis, and Inuit communities, they don't have access to clean water. I mean, all we got to do is drive about 30 kilometers east on 22X, and you'll see that. Many of our First Nation, Métis, and Inuit communities don't have, you know, access to housing, right? And you know, the issue of prejudice or bias at times, arguably, is far more pressing here in Canada than in the United States of America, and that's why, you know, the government all across the board now, they've actually applauded, you know, ensuring that, you know, Indigenous women don't go missing, or they don't get murdered or abused, and a full-blown inquiry has already been in place. So again, you know, we do live in an interesting world. And I think, you know, alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. United we rise. Divided we fall. We are each other's business. We are each other's harvest. And we are each other's bond. As Mother Teresa once said, who lived in Calcutta, India, where part of my origin is from, right? She said, I can do things you cannot, and you can do things I cannot, but together we can do great things, right? And it's deserving of being memorized. I can do things you cannot, and you can do things, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I cannot. But together we can do great things, right? Now, more than ever, do all of us have an obligation, every citizen, every level of government, every human being, the only race, the human race, the one race, to come together, to work together, and to unite together in curbing, curtailing, and condemning all types of hate, misogyny, bias, ignorance, compounded ignorance, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and anti-Islamic rhetoric, because they all stem from the same tree of hate. Let there be no ignorance and no fear, no violence and no hate. Not in New Zealand, not in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, not in Quebec, Canada, not in Charleston, South Carolina, not in our synagogues, not in our churches, not in our mosques, not in our homes, but more importantly, not in our hearts. Lao Tzu, a world-renowned philosopher, he said, in order for there to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. And that is the words Have you ever heard the word salam? The word that Islam comes from, salam, anybody? So Islam is an extension of peace, for those of us who didn't know. It comes from the trilateral root verb, SLM, salam, which means peace. As a matter of fact, the New Zealand press, last Friday, on the national newspaper, they had 3 letters on the front cover. Salam, peace. And they recognized the 50 innocent lives lost because a person maybe just had too much hate or ignorance or something in his heart. But may this person be forgiven as well. Because the first to apologize is the bravest. The first to forgive is the strongest. And the first to forget is the happiest. The weak can never forgive. The weak can never forgive. Only the strong can. And if anybody has taken the opportunity, I've memorized the Quran. I don't speak the Arabic language. I'm not on Arab. I've memorized the Quran. I've learned the language. I recite 1.5 sections every day. And of the Quran, and there's 30 sections of the Quran. All you have to do is flip a couple of pages of Quran, and the verse will come up. وَأَن تَعْفُوا أَقْرَبُوا لِلتَّقْوَى. It is far more meritorious and virtuous to forgive and forget than to hate and remember. That is far more virtuous to forgive and to forget than to hate and remember. We all have an obligation to learn how to listen without interrupting. I teach, by the way, so I feel like I'm at the UFC again, right? I never teach at night or in the evening. We have an obligation to listen without interrupting. These are Abrahamic values. To speak without accusing, to share without pretending, to enjoy without complaint, to trust without wavering, to give without measuring, to forgive without punishing, and to promise without forgetting. The topic that we're about to embark on today is perhaps the most misunderstood topic and misinterpreted topic in the world. The word Islam, what does it mean anyway? As far as our guests are concerned. And then even Muslim, but as far as our guests are concerned. I like making, so there, just to throw it out there. I know, does anybody have children out here? Raise your hand. Children, anyone? Children? Grandchildren? You do, ma'am? Children? All right, that's awesome. So they say that there are 4 C's to education. Communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. This is what we're doing today. Critical thinking, I think that's what brought a lot of you folks out here, which is great. Thank you. Critical thinking, communication, collaboration. Let's all collaborate to make sure that we leave this world in a better place before we leave this gathering today. Collaboration. Seek to understand prior to being understood. One of my favorite authors, Stephen Covey, who's a Mormon, by the way. What are the 4 C's? Collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. Very, very important. So whenever your children are doing something, please let your children know that Imam Tilly taught you that. Right? So they could pray for me as well. All right, guys? Thank you. So, what does the word Islam mean, anyway?
Submission.
Doesn't mean submission.
Okay.
So there are a couple of authoritative dictionaries in the English language. One is the Handswear. One is another, it's called Al-Mawrid, written by Dr. Ruhi Ba'alabaki, right? Now, words are interesting because the word Sharia is the word I'm going to be discussing, right? It's a it's not a creepy word. It's a word which has not been understood. So words are interesting. Let's talk about words for a second, right? Words have multiple meanings. There's a denotated meaning, there's a connotated meaning, there is a literal meaning to a word, there is a technical or scientific meaning called nomenclature, right? Nomenclature. People are nodding their heads, okay? I just want to make sure everyone's with me here. And then there's also, for example, a contextual meaning, right? So what's the contextual meaning of a word? So for example, or there's proverbs or there's idiom, right? So as far as proverbs or idioms are concerned, it's raining cats and dogs outside. What does that mean? It's raining cats and dogs outside. What does that mean?
Heavy rain.
It's
very heavy.
Raining, pouring like crazy, right? Okay. Now the word positive, right? Back in 1994 when I was studying in the University of Buffalo, in a seminary in Buffalo, if I had $100 in my pocket, a full tank of gas, and the sky was blue, and I was on my way from Toronto to Niagara Falls and then to Buffalo, I said I'm going to have a positive day today. Right? Positive means what? What does it mean? Have a good day. Right? Now imagine a person goes into Calgary Laboratory Services and gets a blood test. And then, the technician, the doc comes out and they say, I got some news for you. You're HIV positive. Is he going to Snapchat himself? Is he going to IG that Instagram story? So positive here, does it mean positive? Does being HIV positive here mean positive? I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't. Right? So positive is not always positive. I'm glad we figured that out. So when it comes to Islam, right, there's also a proverb or an idiom in the English language, right? And that is, lost in translation. What does that mean? What does lost in translation mean?
Misunderstood.
Misunderstood. You could take a beautiful romantic poem in Francais and you translate it in English and you'll just butcher it, right? You'll just butcher the living out of that romantic poem in French. Anybody speak French here? Besides Brother Mustafa? Right? Okay, well at least there's a couple of us who speak both languages, when it comes to, being flawlessly bilingual in French in Canada, French and English in Canada. So kudos to you, brother. All right. Now, so what does the word Islam mean? So when you look at these dictionaries, the word that, Muslim thinkers, and A Thinking Person's Guide to Islam. This is a book I want everyone to buy. A Thinking Person's Guide to Islam. It's a book written by a person that has 2 PhDs, by His Majesty, the Honorable Prince Ghazi, right, of Jordan. I've actually met him. I've had a couple of meals with him as well. It's a very, very important book because it actually allows a person to access knowledge instead of information. It allows a person to access knowledge instead of information. So the word Islam, according to Muslim intellectuals, according to Prince Ghazi and others as well, perhaps the most appropriate translation would be commitment. Right? So anybody who's committed to anything would be considered a Muslim. So a Muslim is a person who's committed. Islam is the verbal noun. It's the verbal noun for the English enthusiasts out there. Okay? It's the verbal noun. Islam actually means commitment. Okay? I always tell my kids that McDavid, right? Because my kids all play hockey. McDavid's a Muslim in the context of hockey. He's committed to hockey. The Edmonton Oilers aren't committed to winning, by the way, though. All right? All right? Right? And we can't even talk about Edmonton now because the playoffs are here and, I don't want to create a war now, all right? At the end of the day, right? So anybody who's committed to anything would be considered a Muslim. So a person who's committed to a vegan diet, that person is considered literally a Muslim in the context of a vegan diet. Okay? Why is commitment important? Imagine for a second if all Albertans stopped following traffic rules. They were quadrupling the speed limit. driving on the opposite end of the street or opposite side of the street, running red, not stopping at green, not yielding. What would happen? 5-letter word. Start with a C. Chaos. Chaos, right? Why am I committed to traffic laws? Because I'm committed to traffic laws because I want to get from point A to point B with safety and security, but I also want my fellow motor vehicle operators, cyclists, pedestrians, people that are walking their dog or their cat, or people whose dogs are walking them for that matter, right? I also want them to get from point A to point B with safety and security as well. Now the question is, why are 1.564 billion people on Earth, meaning pretty much 1 out of every 4.5 people on planet Earth, why are they Muslim? Why are they Muslim? And why are they committed to Islam? Because they want to get from point A to whatever their point B may be after death with safety and security, but they also want the other billions of people that they're sharing planet Earth with get from point A to point B with safety and security as well. I love Jesus. Jesus is mentioned in the Quran. I love Moses. Moses is mentioned in the Quran. I love Abraham. Abraham is mentioned in the Quran. I love Sarah, the mother of Isaac. She's mentioned in the Quran. I love Eve. She's mentioned in the Quran. We have great reference to the Christian tradition. We have great reference to the Christian tradition. Open up any Quran and you'll see that. Ya Ahl al-Kitab, O people of the book, O people of Scripture. We have great veneration for the people who subscribe to the Jewish tradition as well. Great veneration. So again, that's a whole different topic altogether. Is there anti-Semitism in the Quran? Absolutely, categorically, unequivocally. There is no anti-Semitism in the Quran. Anybody who recited the Quran, who's understood the Quran, they will, and you know what? This was agreed upon by all of the religious scholars and professors at Mount Royal University after presenting our findings. It's an agreed upon position as far as the post-secondary institution is concerned. Now, getting back to Islam, etymologically speaking, the word Christianity, etymologically, the origin of the word. Etymologically speaking, the word Christianity was named after who?
Christ.
Christ. Christ was what language originally? No. Aramaic? No. Greek. Christos. What does Christos mean? Anybody? It means the anointed one. What would Jesus do according to Abrahamic tradition? Or according to at least Christians and Muslims, right? Jesus would come by the blind and he would heal their sight. You know, those who had leprosy, he would heal their skin. The same word is used in Quran. The Muslims, anybody? He's called Masih. That's right, thank you, Brother Adam. Masaha yamsahu means to anoint, to rub, right? That's what it means. Okay, so Christianity was named after Christ. Judaism was named after the tribe of Judah, or the kingdom of Judah. Buddhism, by extension, was named after Buddha. Who or what is Islam named after? Muhammad, Islam, oh man, it's two different words, right, at the end of the day. What does Islam mean again? Commitment. Anybody who's committed to God. So Islam in 2 sentences. Love and worship your Creator. Sentence number 2, how do we do that? By loving and serving His creation. Islam in 2 sentences. Love and worship your Creator. And how do we do that? By loving and serving His creation. So that's where actually the word Islam comes from. Now, before I get to anything, you may say that, you know what, well, we hear on the news and we hear that, you know, there are certain people who are just bombing people and beheading people. That's true. There may be certain people. But let's go back 1 century. Let's go back 1 century. Who's responsible for the killing of 6 million people?
German. Nazis.
And who was the leader of the Nazis at that particular time, sir?
Hitler.
And Hitler was what religion?
Satanist.
Satan is not a religion. It is now. Back, we're talking about a century ago. I've got to be very, very careful. So arguably, he was baptized. Many say that he subscribed to the Roman Catholicism. He subscribed to Roman Catholicism. Would it be fair for anyone to say, or me to say, that Christianity is responsible for the killing of 6 million people? Would it be fair for anyone to say that? No.
If you believed he was killing in the name of God, then yes.
Yes.
As many have done
Right.
over
Yes.
the centuries too.
Yes.
Now, I like what you said. It was the Nazis. Is there a difference between Nazism and Christianity, though?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a difference between, okay, Stalin. Stalin was what?
Communist.
Atheist. Well, right?
Socialist.
Is there a difference between Stalinism and atheism or communism? There is. So when a fraction of 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 percent who call themselves Muslim and who do things, let's say, in the name of Islam, is that representative of Islam? It ain't. And it would be unfair and academically disintegrable to say that. So I want to just get that out. Muslim, no Muslim is responsible for the killing of 6 million plus people. I'll tell you that right now. As far as the word Sharia is concerned, what does Sharia mean? So etymologically speaking now, where does this word come from? Anybody? So why is there a big fuss?
Why are we talking about in Canada?
Exactly.
Why am I talking about Canada? Because many Canadians don't even understand what this word means.
Well, we have such great Canadian laws here already. Why would we need to discuss Sharia law if we already have really, or had, before too know, really great laws?
So there's two things. We're discussing this word.
Okay, but why are we discussing this word?
Because you know why? I'll tell you why. Has anybody heard of the term religious literacy? Religious literacy. So the question is, they say guns can kill terrorists, but knowledge will kill terrorism. Guns will kill terrorists, but not, pardon me?
Guns don't kill anybody, it's people behind them.
Exactly.
It's a proverb, man. Please don't take me literally. All right. Right? Guns kill terrorists. Knowledge kills hate. Knowledge kills prejudice. You know the KKK? The KKK, a white Christian supremacist group. They would lynch black folk. Christianity is not responsible for the actions of KKK. They're not. We're talking about this word because the moment this word comes up, people are even afraid to understand what it means. And if a person, ma'am, let me finish, and then I'll get to your question. If a person is afraid to understand what such a beautiful word actually means, that means there's lack of religious literacy. We can only stop the hate if we come together, we eat together, we work together. Nobody's calling for Sharia law in Canada. Who is?
I don't know.
I'm asking you, ma'am.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Okay, well, you tell me one person. Nobody in this room is calling for Sharia law.
No, but in 2003 they did for separate.
Who did? Who did?
In Ontario.
Who
It got
did?
shut down by other Muslim activists.
Who did?
Would you like me to find that?
Yeah, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent of Muslim, right?
But it
Now
was-
again,
It was stopped because of other Muslims.
no, hear me out. Yeah, how do you reconcile that? Exactly. How do you reconcile that? By understanding the teachings of Islam. What does Islam call towards?
But we have Muslims who have the understanding of Islam and the teachings of Islam, and they're the ones that say it should be here in Canada.
Who are saying that? No. I just, so let me talk to you. So a Jewish woman, right? So first of all, The word Sharia, it comes from actually the Hebrew word yara. Was that a new word? The word Sharia comes from the Hebrew word yara. Are we good on that? Yara. Okay? What does the word yara mean or Sharia mean? It means a path, or a road, or a route, or a canal to water. Where there is life, where there is water, there is life. Right? Where there is water, there is life. Now, as far as Islam is concerned, people think that Sharia law is corporal punishment, or subjugation of women, or tyranny. But you know what Sharia law, the first thing about Sharia law is? Be good to your neighbor. Sharia is a moral code and a legal code. So there are three primary functions of Sharia law. Okay? Establishing a compassionate world. So you yourself being a compassionate person. Making sure that all human beings are morally centered. Has anybody read anything on Sharia law? Just so I can maybe advance some of the nomenclature. Has anybody even read a book on Sharia law? So all the information that we're getting is from CNN and Fox and mainstream media?
Do you trust anything you read out there these days?
No, ma'am, I'm just asking you a question here. Has anybody read a paper on Sharia law?
No.
A paper written by a Muslim on Sharia law?
I haven't read nothing.
Thank you, bud.
That's why I came.
No, I don't know, and I appreciate that, man. You know, because you come in here with knowledge creation, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So again, I just want to, because obviously there's nomenclature, there's Islamic academia, and whatnot as well. And by all means, I will leave you my email address, and let's further the conversation at the end of the day. Okay? So again, being good to one's neighbor, it's a moral code. It's Sharia law. Making love to one's wife is part of Sharia law. Now we're getting somewhere, right? You know what? Sponsoring an orphan is part of Sharia law. Being good to the environment, part of Sharia law. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, I guess what I'm sensing here is some of the concern is that the purpose of this lecture is that Muslims want Sharia law in Canada.
Who said that? No, 1 second. Let me hold you there.
So-
Who said that the purpose of this lecture is that Muslim wants Sharia? 1 second, ma'am.
No,
1 second,
no,
ma'am.
no. This
You asked the
is
question.
my time.
Just let her
Okay, sure.
But I want to know.
Sure.
Is the purpose of this lecture to actually inform and maybe bridge that, disconnect or that gap? Is it really to, create peace? Because, you know, personally, that's what I want. And
Okay.
that's why I came here to learn, is that I do want to personally understand. So is that the point? Because that may lower the,
The tension? Okay.
So just, I want to clarify that.
And
1 second,
part B
ma'am.
of
Let me
that-
answer that. Let me answer that, ma'am.
Why you're here tonight.
So,
Yeah.
perfect. So every Wednesday I do a various of lectures here. So I do love and romance in Islam. Right? I've done, last time I did, what was the topic last? 2 weeks ago? No, 2 weeks ago, what was the topic? Oh, I'm doing something on leadership. Just, general leadership, because leadership is not about elections, it's not about titles or positions, but it's about the next generation at the end of the day. I do lectures on social media. I do lectures on, like inheritance. I do lectures on blessing. I do lectures on nutrition and diet, right? So this was just part of our regular lecture series, right? Had I known that this would have caused such a storm, for lack of better words.
It's not a storm,
Yeah.
by the way.
No, I heard online. No, I'm not an online person, but I heard online there were some comments which were pretty pretty rough at the end of it, but that's fine, that's okay. So this whole lecture is about making sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay,
So I appreciate that, man. 1 second, man. I think she had a comment.
well, just the why are you here?
Yeah,
Why am I here?
It was just kind of a
So this
B
might,
part.
Yeah.
this might allow you to be concise with that.
Sure.
So you said that so Sharia is a moral,
Code.
but also a legal code.
It is.
So what is your intention then? How do you, or is your intention at some point to have the legal aspects of Sharia be included within Canadian legislation?
So, absolutely. And nobody, so, your question is again, let me just understand your question.
Absolutely.
Is it your intention to have the legal aspects of Sharia be included in Canadian legislation?
Is it to be integrated into our Canadian?
No, absolutely not. What?
And I'll tell
Why-
you
why would you even think
I'll
that?
tell you why there's a
Because you
concern
said
for that.
Sharia is a
And why
moral
is it
and a
so?
legal code.
It is, it is,
Okay,
it is,
so
it is.
is
So-
it your intention to have full, as a moral code, is, for the most part, pretty good. There certainly are some things, when you read into it and you look at it literally, growing up in Canada, which is very liberal, especially as a woman, there are some things within the moral code of Sharia that is a little unsettling as a woman. That's who it affects the most, not men, it benefits men, being submissive.
No, I think the whole
Having to ask my husband for permission to leave the house
Or have a dress.
is a little unsettling.
where does it say that in the Quran?
Oh my.
No, hold on. Let me tell you. 1 second.
Is that untrue?
Where does it say that in the Quran?
Is it untrue?
It is untrue.
It is 100% untrue.
It is untrue.
So a woman.
No, hold on. So when you're gonna bring a claim, ma'am,
I will.
I expect you to bring it forth,
I
right?
can show you this video at the end if you'd like.
Yeah. No.
Where I got that information
Yeah,
from. and
yeah.
hopefully you can
I'd
reconcile
love
it.
to see it. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see that. Because the thing is, anybody, so, you know what's interesting, right? When I was giving a lecture on anti-Semitism, somebody quoted a verse from the Quran. It was an English translation. And what happened was, academically speaking, ma'am, there's a problem with that, I think. Because if anybody is going to bring a claim, they must validate that claim. That's all I'm saying. So somebody said there was actually a verse in the Quran which says this, and I asked that professor, I said, you know what? Bring that verse forward. If not, retract and rescind your statement, ma'am.
I will find it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
When we're done.
Because I'm about being academically integrable. So for example, again, let me finish my lecture here. Let me finish my lecture here. So again, the question is, well again, look, I have 5 headings here. What does Sharia mean? And I know I can see that you're passionate about this, ma'am, and I can appreciate that. The next one is, do Muslims want Sharia to rule Canada or America? So I was going to get to that anyway, right? Number 3, if Muslims don't want Sharia to rule Canada, then so what if it's banned, right? What does Sharia say about other religions? And I'll give you this. I'll give you my notes. What about countries that oppress people and claim they follow Sharia? So if you guys can allow me again, I know you guys are quite sensitive, and I can see the tension clearly by your demeanor and your nonverbal language and your verbal language. Let me just get to these questions first, and then we can have a conversation. Is that okay, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, because everyone's asking
Well,
questions.
first, we would like you to answer her question.
I did answer a question, ma'am.
Oh, about putting it into legislation?
He was pretty emphatic about no.
I've said this 4 times.
Demeaning, sir. You are very demeaning towards, especially women. Shame on you.
I mean, I feel that, you know what, I'm speaking and you're interrupting me. Ma'am, if I've offended you, I apologize. But again, if you would like to leave, then by all
I am
means.
thoroughly disgusted the way you speak to us.
You do sort of yell for quite a small group. Just saying.
Ma'am, I have 5 people without raising their hand asking, questions. So, you know what, in order for me to teach, I need obviously a respectful 2-way street at the end of the day. So I do thank you. Do you have a question, ma'am?
You know,
Ma'am, may I ask you to ask
no
questions after my
question,
presentation?
Just a comment. You were kind of talking quite loudly before anybody asked any questions.
Ma'am, the thing is, I don't have a mic system set up here. If I had a mic, had I known you were coming, I would have made the arrangements for a mic system. So just speaking to a group of 40 people, I do a part of me?
We don't need a mic at all.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So again, you know, my sister from another mother is saying, we don't need a mic, the tone is okay. You know, I guess volume is very relative. What may be loud to somebody may be very soft to another. So I appreciate that. Okay. So now let me just go through these questions, all right? Okay. So we've established what the word actually means. What does the word Sharia mean again? The path to water. So what does Sharia actually, it covers 5 branches of Islam. So part of Sharia law is that we worship one God. We worship God. And we believe that Jesus was the messenger of God. So it covers our belief system. It also covers our worship system. It's called ibadat. For example, as Muslims, we pray how many times a day? Anybody?
5.
We fast in the month of Ramadan. We give 2.5% of our savings to the poor, etc., etc., etc. Okay? It also covers the way I do business. So for example, I'm not allowed to buy wine for my boss on his birthday, because the consumption of wine or the selling of wine for me is impermissible. But if my neighbor has a liquor store, all the power to him, because he's not subject, or he does not subscribe to Islam, right? But personally, I can't buy wine. For example, there's a lot of dietary restrictions. So Jews eat ethical kosher or kosher meat. Muslims eat halal meat. When I go to the grocery store, I'm going to make sure I pick up halal meat.
What is halal meat?
Okay, I'll get your, ma'am, if it's okay, I'll get your question after. Thank you very much. And this is why I really appreciate you, ma'am, coming out here. Honestly, I felt bad that our an elderly sister had to leave, and again, I mean, it is what it is. But the whole point of coming together is obviously learning together and discussing together again at the end of the day. Okay, so that's my, and then it also covers mu'ashara. So mu'ashara, so we spoke about the belief system, we spoke about the worship system, we spoke about, you know, business and transactions. Then it speaks about, you know, social interaction. For example, I'm obligated to treat my parents with respect. So after I turn 18, I'm still obligated to, you know, obey my parents. You know, within reason, again, at the end of the day, right? I'm obligated to honor them and to take care of them. And even in their elderly age, you know, and to honor them. So that's what, you know, social interaction is about. And then general etiquette, morals and manners. So as Muslims, you know, there's a poem in our tradition. It says, قَدْ مَاتَ قَوْمٌ وَمَا مَاتَتْ مَكَارِمُهُمْ وَعَاشَ قَوْمٌ وَهُمْ فِي النَّاسِ أَمْوَاتٌ, which means there are those who have passed away, but their morals and manners have kept them alive. And there are people like me who are alive, but my morals and manners have made me dead. And we're obligated to be more concerned with our character than our reputation. Because our character is who we really are, while our reputation is who people think we are at the end of the day. Now, do Muslims want Sharia to rule America or Canada? No. Sharia is a personal relationship with God. The Prophet Muhammad, even as the de facto ruler of Arabia, wrote the Charter of Medina in which Muslims were held to Islamic law. So if we were to replace Sharia with Islamic law, it'd be the same thing. Islamic law and Jews to the law of the Torah. Right? Now the question is, what type of government does the Quran subscribe to? Right? So for example, the Quran will subscribe to any type of government in which there is justice, equity, and equality. That's written in my notes, so I'm not making this up. Okay? Now, question number 3.
Can you give like an example of a government doing this that you think is good? Right.
I don't think there's any government.
Like not Iran.
No. I think Saudi Arabia has a horrible record when it comes to human rights.
They don't. That's why
Right.
I'm asking the question. Because
Right?
You're
You know-
advocating, but I don't know an example that I can look to where I'm like, shit, yeah, that's the one. You know what I mean?
So if you look at, some people would say, well, Malaysia has made, leaps and bounds and strides when it comes to, equality and equity of people. Remember, all governments have their fair share of challenges. Obviously, Muslims, or a good part of the Muslim world, 80, 90 years ago were colonized, right? So a lot of their infrastructure, a lot of things that they subscribed to were obviously destroyed, right? I mean, they were oppressed people for many, many decades, if not centuries, again, at the end of the day, right? So these countries have a fairly new history, as far as development is concerned. I mean, Canada has a great record. Do we have our fair share of challenges as well? We do, right? But again, what I want to make sure, again, we're here to discuss one thing here, right? And the word Sharia again. The Sharia says, or Islamic law says, we subscribe to all forms of government, as long as there's equity and equality. And that's why Muslims are here. That's why Jews, they also come here because they're allowed to build their synagogues. And Roman Catholics are allowed to build their churches. And Muslims are allowed to build their mosques. And it's cool, right? Now, what does the Sharia say about other religions? I think Islam has, and it's a bias here, it has the most reverence when it comes to other traditions. No tradition has revered their prophets and messengers the way Islam has. Islam has such a great relationship with the Abrahamic tradition. We have great relationship with Jews. We have great relationship with Christians. There's a very venerative title that Islam subscribes to in the Quran. The people who follow Jewish tradition and Christian tradition, they're known as Ahlul Kitab, the people of scripture, people of knowledge, people of veneration, okay? And then my last question is, well, what about countries that oppress people and claim that they follow the Sharia, right? And then we'll open up the floor to a Q&A, okay? Perfect. So such countries have ignored the fundamental tenet of justice inherent of Islamic or Sharia law. And I'm going to use Islamic law and Sharia law interchangeably here, okay? And have instead used Islamic law or the Quran or the Sharia as an excuse to gain power and sanction religious extremism. To be sure, not a single example of a Sharia compliant country exists. That's in my notes. Okay? In fact, the most Muslim countries are countries which adhere to equity, equality, justice, and fairness. Now, if there's a woman who says, so a lot of, in the Jewish tradition and in the Muslim tradition, both spouses have the right to pronounce a divorce, or to officiate, or to get a divorce. But the way it's conducted is a bit different in the Jewish tradition, and similar in the Christian tradition. So if, according to Canadian law, a Jewish woman gets divorced, she also wants a Jewish divorce. Does anyone know what that Jewish divorce is called? Anyone? It's called a get. Called a get. Okay? So until she gets her get, she won't be comfortable marrying another man, because according to her, she wants her union with another man to be blessed by the law of Moses, the law of the Torah. So similarly, a lot of Muslim women, they come to, clergy, and they say, look, I'm actually divorced according to Canadian law. Can you just get me, it's called a talaq, or officiate a talaq for me? They go, and once that talaq comes into play, or that Islamic divorce right comes into play, then they'll get married to whoever they like. So sometimes a lot of sisters, a lot of brothers, depending on their personal situation, because it's a personal relationship with God, just because the country says that they're actually divorced, they won't be comfortable until they actually get a divorce that they also recognize based on their tradition. Now, as far as matriarchy, what's your name, sister? Yeah. Yeah.
When?
As far as matriarchy and patriarchy is concerned, some people have argued that Islam is more of a matriarchal religion than anything. So living in 21st century Canada, I work and my wife works. My wife has no financial responsibilities towards the household. Truly, I'm not trying to be funny here. What I make is hers. What she makes is not mine.
It's your roof, your room.
Right?
You live with that.
Right? Yeah, right. So again, it's about context. Now, I'm just going to read a summary about Sharia law, and then we're going to open up the floor for a Q&A. And again, if I have offended anybody, and if anybody knows that sister who did leave, please apologize on my behalf. Because if somebody feels uncomfortable around me, I'm not following my tradition. Right? So if somebody knows that sister, please do apologize on my behalf. As I know you got a comment, I'm just going to read the summary, then I'll answer the comment. Okay. So again, this book, again, A Thinking Person's Guide to Islam, the essence of Islam, right? So, does Islam subscribe to capital punishment? It does. It does in certain situations. Murder, for example, right? Does the United States of America subscribe to capital punishment? It does. Treason. Likewise, treason in certain states. Right? Thank you. Thank you for, I stand corrected, man. Right? At the end of the day. I'm just going to read the summary here. And we'll try that. It's 8 o'clock, so let's go till 8:15. Is that okay? I have to talk to the boss, or Sammy. He'll be okay. Is that, we'll go to 8:15. Right? And I have a leadership course coming up as well. You're all invited to it. It comes with good Mediterranean food. So by all means, Saturday, if you're not doing nothing on April 27th, please come to it. I'm actually bringing some legal experts, from my classmates and colleagues from Toronto, and we're going to be teaching leadership to youth and adults alike. Okay, so let me just go to the summary here. So, first of all, it is important to know that Sharia is both a moral and legal code. As a legal code, Gwen, it is a plural and not a monolithic body of law. And there are usually many different legitimate opinions on a given issue or ruling. So there may be a certain ruling. So there's hermeneutics, there's exegesis, there's multiple interpretations. So that may be one ruling. But is it the predominant ruling? Another thing that Islam takes into consideration is socio, eco, geo, poly, and eco factors. So, and the reason why Islam has, I think, an innate ability to do that, man, and everyone else, is unlike other scriptures, according to our belief system. So the Gospels were obviously written by who? Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. So we believe that the revelation given to Jesus was not the Gospel. It was called the Injil. And the Torah, which was given to Moses, it was all revealed all at once. But the Quran was revealed over a period of 23 years. In those 23 years, the socio, geo, poly, eco factors continuously changed. So whenever I want a panel at the University of Calgary, or at the mosque, and when we invite our Christian brothers and our Sikh and our Jewish brothers and our brothers from other and sisters from other traditions as well, they will say, look, there's two views. There's the Orthodox view, and there is the reconstruction. There's the view which subscribes to Reconstructionism, or the Reformed view. So Reformed Christianity says this, but Orthodox Christianity says this. Islam does not need that, because of the hermeneutics and the interpretations that Islam innately had. That's why Islam is intrinsically a religion of gradualism and a religion which subscribes to Reconstructionism all the time, at the end of the day. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it is important to know that with the different opinions within Islamic law, the correct practice and the most pious option is to take the easiest and most merciful available option, not the most difficult. The third thing, it is important to know that the ultimate goal of the Sharia Islamic law is to help people by instituting justice and mercy and by looking after their best interest. even if they aren't people who subscribe to the faith. So for example, if my neighbor doesn't, shovel my driveway after I shoveled his driveway twice, is Sharia law or Islamic law morally obliging me to help my neighbor the third time and the fourth time as well? We don't keep scorecard. And last but not least, it is important to know that the Sharia has a why, a what, and how, and not just the what. And that applying the what without understanding the why of intention and the how of context and of procedure is usually going to lead to a misconception. Adil, you've been waiting for about 30 minutes to say something.
I don't have a question.
Sure.
But I've got like this dark cloud of guilt. So she was mumbling.
Okay.
And I could have ended the anger because you didn't hear her, so you were talking over people and she just felt like you were blocking. So I just feel guilty that could have ended easy. You didn't hear her and she had issues you could have dealt with.
Thank you.
My second thing is, because I think there's gonna bump into an issue of time.
Yeah.
Most of the
8:15, we're gonna
people
call it
here. Most of the people here, I think, although I'm not making, and most of the comments I read on the post you were talking about, they think we want the Sharia in Canada. So I think if we do a vote, you can either do two things. You're either gonna speak to them about, do we want Sharia in Canada? Or actually explain what, I don't think you, and if I was to swap positions with you and be in your shoes, I don't think you could do, I think it's unfair for you.
Okay.
You're not gonna be able to properly explain what it is, because by the background noise, I don't think they care, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. I think they just, there's this real fear, he even asked it, is, well, just explain it to me, why do you want it here? I think with the time you have, you'll probably have to pick, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a fear of them thinking you're bringing it here,
Okay.
that is a general fear, trust me, I've heard it.
Yeah.
And you actually explaining it, I almost feel like they don't care, because if you're not bringing it here, well, don't explain it.
Yeah, we're not bringing it. Who's advocating for Sharia law in Canada?
Yeah.
I'm not.
So why was actually the topic to talk about then?
No, my top, what is, so that's a great question. My topic, so the halakha the halakha in the study circle that I intended to give was for a Muslim audience. That's the first thing.
Why?
So they understand the word Sharia.
We understand.
It's not a loaded term. The Sharia is not
I've been
synonymous.
following the dude for years,
Yeah.
and giving the,
Yeah.
I wanna learn.
Yeah. The Sharia is not synonymous with female subjugation. It's not synonymous with being anti-democratic. It's not synonymous with doing whatever you'd like to do.
But what I don't understand.
Sure, ma'am.
If you don't want Sharia in Canada, so Canada has its own laws of the land and stuff like that, so why would you even, if you think that was going to be all Muslim, coming, why would you even be speaking about Sharia?
Because a lot
Why
of,
would you be speaking
because,
about Canadian law?
because Sharia, see, because Sharia, we subscribe to Sharia every day. But it's a personal journey, man. So what the Sharia, so man, look, I wanna get wasted tonight. So I go to the liquor store. Adam will say, Fayaz, look, you wanna go to the liquor store, you do that. But according to your personal relationship with God, you shouldn't be doing that. That's all it means.
Well, I just received a message from one of our brother in the community. Keep your bullshit Sharia law out of Canada.
Yeah.
You people make me sick. You should be ashamed. Faithless dogs. You have been warned. Also reported to CPS.
Now, I could say, and I'm Canadian. I could say Canadian laws allow that.
That just
Thank you,
represents my
right? Thank
views.
you.
Okay.
His name
One second, Gwen. You had a question here from the
No,
floor.
I just said it doesn't represent my view, and I'm not.
I know it doesn't represent
At
any.
all.
One second. We need to be in order.
Fraction of a fraction of a fraction.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir.
It's super important like that.
Guys, one second.
You were my sister. You're
One
my
second.
sister.
One second. Go ahead. I don't know. There's so many hands. I lost my thing. Go ahead, Gwen.
I think it's pretty safe to say none of us feel that way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Thank
think
you.
where the confusion comes, and from confusion, that's where fear is bred, right?
That's right. 100%.
So just bringing it right back, if it's a moral and a legal code to live by, how is the legal side of it applied?
So I give you an example about the divorce. So I could be legally divorced. I'm happily married, by the way, I have 4 kids, right? So I can be legally divorced, right? But if my divorce is not as per the legal laws of divorce that Islamic law suggests, then I would not be divorced, man.
Can you give more examples of?
Another example.
Because I think that's the concern, right?
Yeah, it's not a good, yeah, Mom, another example. Adil and I want to establish a business. We don't have the funding to go and do that. According to, certain views, we want to go establish we want to go and put our money into some stocks. If these stocks are selling, for example, recreational marijuana, or if it's a Lotto 649 stock, we aren't allowed to legally invest our money in that. Because marijuana,
No, you're not allowed morally to invest in that.
Legally.
Legally, by Canada, you can.
no, legally our wealth would not be permissible for us to use after
No,
that.
that's moral. That's a moral code.
From Islamic legal perspective.
No, from an Islam, remember, it's illegal from an Islamic legal
In
perspective.
Canada,
Yeah.
from a Canadian legal perspective,
Oh.
you are
Legal
allowed.
perspective, yes.
But as a Muslim in Canada, you would morally not be.
No, but it's the same thing as the divorce situation then, right? According to Canadian law, I could be divorced.
Right.
But according to Islam, am I divorced?
No.
No. It's the same situation, right?
Yeah, okay, but let's talk about other examples.
Let's talk about it.
What kind of-
Remember, whatever we do, it has to be congruent with Islamic law. So, like,
But why does it need to be both? Why can't it just be the moral code? What is the legal portion of it?
legally, I'll tell you. So legally, I'm responsible of giving 2.5% of my wealth to the poor.
What
Although,
happens if you don't?
then that's between me and God.
No, then that's a moral obligation.
And-
That's not a legal obligation. Okay, then maybe we have to redefine what you mean.
I'm not. Yeah. So.
Because if we do something illegally here, that brings in the police authority, right?
Oh,
Okay, so
okay.
that's different.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
perhaps
what's
the
that?
legal definition is different then.
No, yeah. So for example, I'm looking at it for example, so we studied Islamic law as well, right? So legally, so when we say moral, right? The moral code, how we interact with one another.
And that's between you and God.
Yeah.
So when you talk about legal, that's between you and police.
Okay, yeah. So then as Muslims, so for example, I've been here for 41 years. I was born in Toronto. I've never broken the law. And for me to break the law would violate Sharia law. Sharia law obligates us to follow the law of the land that we live in. Which means, and there's a verse in the Quran, I'll actually recite the verse to you. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O those who believe, ati'u Allah, obey Allah, wa ati'u Rasul, obey the messenger, wa ulil amri minkum, and obey the authority that governs you. Period. So so it's not mutually exclusive,
You
right?
don't need
A per-
Sharia to tell you that. Canadian law will tell you that.
No, but
Follow the law.
yeah, but there are many Canadians who don't follow Canadian law and they go to jail, right? So although Canadian law tells you that, but hear me out, buddy. But let me finish, if I may. So I'm obligated. I'm twofold. I'm obligated as a Canadian citizen to follow the laws of the land, and I'm also obligated, as per my scripture, to follow the laws of the land as well, man. That's perfect. You had a comment with Mustafa and then you, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, about the mentioning about the legal question they have our assistant here. I have two nieces work in Quebec. One of them work for the government and the other one for the Catholic school. And now they are very worried that we kick out of the school just because they put a headscarf, because the government of Quebec comes with a new law saying no one is allowed to work there.
To wear religious symbols publicly.
This
right.
is just an opposite way. That's how that
Yeah.
we look at the laws that in government. What we're looking at is to find freedom to do everyone who wants what he wants to do as long as he respects the others. But to enforce laws on everyone just because this is what they think, this is what they should believe in, or what's good for the community, which is wrong.
That's a good point. Thank you very much, Mustafa. So you've got a question from the man in the purple? Oh no, the man in the back there.
Yeah, I could,
to your point about the comments that you got. So I'm reading the Sharia rules. This is where all this hate is coming from. So if I could read 4 or 5 of these rules and you tell me if they're true or not,
Sure,
I would feel a lot better.
sure.
Number 1 off the top of my head, infidels will be killed if they do not believe in Allah.
Terrorized.
It says that in the Quran.
Okay, but it says the
Does it
Quran.
not say
Okay.
that in the Quran?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, I will find that.
Yeah.
Because I know it does.
No, ma'am, let me answer your question.
Let me finish, please. This is where all this is coming from.
Okay,
All these rules and everything that we hear is causing fear,
okay,
is causing hate.
sure.
And when you look at the rules of your Sharia law, it scares the hell out of us.
What website are you on?
I'm not sure. I can find this.
Well, there you go, right? Is it authenticated?
I can find this on.
Ontario Islamic Party.
Is it satire? Is it satire? Is it satire? Next question, ma'am, go ahead. Guys, we have 2 more minutes left. You know what the Quran says? The Quran says I can marry a Christian woman. So I'm gonna kill her right after I marry her. Alright, next question. Thank you.
You said if you kill 6 million like the Nazis, and you only kill 1, you're still a murderer.
Absolutely. And the Quran says that. The Quran says whoever kills one,
Kill anyone.
the Quran says, and you're right.
Why is everyone, you're all afraid, it's all about religion, this and that. I believe in God. And
Guys, can we respect the person on the floor, please?
And I don't need you to tell me how to preach to God or how I should listen to God. I believe in good, I believe in everything, I think we should all live in peace and that. And anyone that promotes hatred and stuff like that is completely wrong.
You're right, and I applaud you, man. Let's applaud that. I'm sorry for that. Thank you.
The way we want to live, but we want to keep Canada, Canada.
100%.
If too many people come in and try and change it and bring all your bullshit and do all the other things.
Well, you said bring all your bullshit?
No, I'm not saying you. I'm
Oh, okay, I want to clarify that.
No, I'm not.
Alright, yeah, alright. Because see, it's easy, right? It's easy to pinpoint the slip of a tongue.
Look at something, you see it the wrong way. You know what?
I think we're saying the same thing.
We have laws to protect us. We have Canadian ways that we've lived here. I was born here, my parents were born here, my grandparents are probably immigrated.
Yeah,
I was
100%.
back 80, 90, 100 years, I couldn't tell you.
There's a reason people.
But you know what? Canadians are friendly.
100%.
We are good, outgoing people. We don't care who comes to our country, but we want it done properly. It's all we've been saying all along.
And I think we're all in agreement with that,
One of the
right?
things you're saying about your law and what your Sharia is all about, a lot of it sounds really good.
I appreciate
no
that.
qualms about it at all.
Thank you.
But what she's saying, people are scared because there's a lot of stuff, bad information out there. Media does not
help
at all. It's the same as if I came up and said something, they call me a racist. They call you guys
Terrorists.
religious fanatics.
Yeah. They see my beard, they call me a terrorist, right?
Yeah.
Terrorists.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And it's terrible, but and our governments create division, whereas we all need to stay together.
Thank you, I appreciate that. If I may, guys, I really, truly appreciated what you said, sir, and thank you, and
One more important thing, though.
I think the Quran says, and decent human dignity says as well, that you kill one life, you kill 6 million lives, they're both wrong. The Quran actually says, وَمَنْ أَحْيَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. Whoever kills somebody, it is as if he has killed all of humanity. And whoever saves one life, it is as if they have killed, saved all humanity as well. One last thing, it's so easy, and this is where I've done it with my Jewish counterparts and my Christian colleagues as well. In the Bible, sometimes we find verses that if a woman does not cover her hair, she must shave all of her head. It's in the book of Leviticus, the Hebrew Bible, right? And people will take, one verse without contextualizing the verse, without qualifying the verse, and you know what? They will start picking on, our brothers and sisters who subscribe to the Jewish faith, or our brothers and sisters who subscribe to the Orthodox faith as well. We need to really stop, what's the word? Picking and choosing verses out of context. Because the moment we start doing that, that's when, like you said, the hate and the animosity and that tension would come about. I need to leave the room, but if anybody has any questions, I am here. You have a question, but go ahead, man. I feel bad.
I'm just looking up some quotes from the Quran,
Yeah.
And 356 goes, "As to those who reject the faith, will punish them with terrible agony in the world and hereafter." Quran 3:151 says, "Soon shall we cast terror into the hearts of the unbelievers."
That's right.
And
it goes on.
It goes on and on.
Yeah,
and on.
yeah.
So
we actually did a course on this. I did a course on this. The course was to stop anti-Islamic rhetoric, anti-Semitism as well. We took verses of the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, and the Quran, and then we did an exercise, right? The exercise was take 2 or 3 verses before that verse, and take 2 or 3 verses after that verse. So all of those questions, or all of those verses, are speaking about battle. So remember, Muslims were a religious minority, and they were persecuted. And there was a Christian king in Abyssinia who gave amnesty to Christians. Then Muslims, they had to leave Mecca and go to Medina. And then they were still persecuted as well. Now, say you and I are in the subway, where my kids and your kids were having a birthday party at the Halal McDonald's across the street, all right? And somebody comes in with a machete and starts, God forbid, hurting my mom and dad, and the elderly, and the weak, and our kids. What would we do?
everyone's gonna step up. Everyone's got.
We're gonna step up. That's what these verses are talking about. So before Muslims, they weren't even allowed to engage in battle for the first 13 years. So you know what Muslims had to do? The same thing that African Americans had to do in the age of slavery. Were slaves allowed to fight back? Were they allowed to say, "Don't hit me," to their rulers a century ago in the United States? They weren't allowed. So Muslims for 13 years, they had to turn their cheek the other way. The only weapon they had was wasbir, was being patient. Then, when Muslims were being attacked in their little city, that's when Muslims said, if you're being attacked, you have the right to fight back. You have the right to kill. Because it's either be killed or kill. There wasn't no 911 back then. There wasn't the United Nations back then. Well, that's what those verses are talking about.
Hey, but how does that relate to
Nowadays.
religion? Because the first one I read was not based on if I'm attacking you, it was based on I believe something else, so you're going to terrorize me.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because, so, has anybody been to Jerusalem? All right. So Jerusalem is a beautiful example of Christian quarters, Jewish quarters, and Muslim quarters. Right? When you go to Jerusalem, I'm going to Jerusalem in December. By all means, you guys are more than welcome to join me as well. Right? I can't pay your ticket though. Okay. So there's actually a pact of Islam there, which the Muslims historically were the only ones who allowed the synagogues and the churches and the adherents of those religions to practice freely. The Christians, again, this is not based on Christianity, but it's based on what they did. There was bloodshed in Jerusalem. It comes in the history books that the half of the leg of the horses, their ankle and the half of their leg was covered in blood. Read history. Read the history of Jerusalem. May God be with you. Thank you for coming out. Again, if I've offended anybody, I do apologize. My brother owns the Mac store across the street. Choose up yourself to a free coffee anytime. Just so you're Fayaz's friend. Ma'am, I'm gonna get to you after. Take care, guys. We gotta run.
I don't want to put my video in. I didn't come here to get photos.
Thank you, ma'am.